Good morning. I'm Danielle Palli, and today I'd like to talk about the four horsemen. Now, I'm not talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse from the Bible. I'm talking about John Gottman's four horsemen when it comes to relationships. And John Gottman is one of the leading experts on what makes relationships and marriages work. And the four horsemen are what gets in the way of good communication. The first one is criticism. Criticism is when you come to your partner with a grievance and you say, well, you always do XYZ. You never do this. Why do I have to ask you 5 million times to do the same task? Or why do I have to remind you of this every single time? Whenever you're coming at someone from that place of aggression, what's going to happen? The other person is going to get defensive. Well, you don't have any right to feel that way because I notice you do the same thing. And then what happens is they start defending, but, yeah, but, yes, but, and there's a rebuttal. And all that does is escalate the situation. And then finally, if you're having this back and forth of criticizing and getting defensive over time, then there's stonewalling, where one person is coming at you and you might be like, I can't do this anymore. It's the same scenario. I'm going to get in my car and go for a drive. So stonewalling is not responding at all. You might be leaving. You might be sitting there and it's like they are talking to a brick wall. You're not even paying attention. And the most serious, from my perspective, is contempt. And contempt goes beyond addressing the behaviors that bother you. You're attacking a person's character. You're demeaning them. You're coming from a place of superiority. Like, you are such an idiot. I can't believe I thought that you were capable of XYZ when you are just a little so-and-so. Insert any of the name calling you choose. You're attacking the person's very nature. When I hear that, to me, that's a sign that that couple needs therapy, not a relationship coach. So I want to give a couple of tips to bring into your own communication when you see these things emerging, right? So with criticism, number one, see if you can come from a place of compassionate communication. I encourage you to watch the YouTube video I have on I feel statements. So you might say, when you do or don't do X, Y, and Z, I feel like I'm not valued, like I'm not heard, whatever it is, because that person doesn't want to hurt you at the core. So it's coming from a place of expressing, here are my feelings, here's what I'd prefer, as concisely as possible. If you find yourself getting defensive, the best thing you can do is take a pause and understand whether the statement is accurate or inaccurate in your mind. Understand that that is how the other person is feeling and just acknowledge that. And then you can open it up to ask questions like, well, what makes you feel that way? And create a dialogue instead of shutting it down immediately. So it's going to take a little bit of impulse control on your part. And then stonewalling. If you're just so exhausted because these situations keep happening that you're just not listening anymore, you can call for a timeout, right? Emotions run high. You're overloaded. You're flooded. You might say, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. Can we talk about this in 20 minutes, 30 minutes after I've calmed down? So it's not leaving for an indeterminate period of time. It's, I know I don't have the energy for this. Can we come back at this time and continue this conversation? And contempt, which again is one of the hardest ones to manage. The one way to start turning that around is to start noticing the person's good qualities. some exercises could be, instead of a gratitude journal where you're writing down 3 things you're grateful for, at the end of the night, notice 3 things either that they did or said or that you appreciate about your partner, and do that every day. And mix it up as much as possible so it's just not the same 3 things. And then actually share with one another what you appreciate about the other person. And if you do this every evening or every morning over time, you're going to start scanning for those qualities in the person. So you're not just focusing on the areas where you feel like they lack or the relationship lacks. And finally, I highly encourage, if there are a lot of these moments where there's unrest in the household, try designating a certain time each week, every couple of weeks, whatever you can manage, to sit down and plan on having these conversations so that you're not blindsided. And it's a practice in active listening. So active listening is your partner will talk for maybe 5 minutes. You decide what the time is. And then you will listen without interrupting, being fully present. And then you reflect back what you think they said, ask clarifying questions, and make sure you understood before you respond. And you can empathize with someone's feelings even if you disagree. And then you can switch. Now it's your turn to talk and the other person to listen. And the trick here is to remember that you're both coming from a place of love. You both are hoping to move the relationship forward, not derail it. So if you believe that your partner has both of your best interests in mind, it might help to soften when you have those difficult conversations. Thanks for joining me.